Welcome back, high school hockey fans. It's another edition of This Week in Wisconsin Prep Hockey. Our full panel is here tonight as we get set for the state tournament. And this season's went by pretty fast. And the state tournament's here this week, and there's teams that are pretty excited to be here and going to crown some champions. But first, we went through some sectional finals. And Del Scanlon, you got to go out and get to see some of those.
Yeah, on Friday evening, my first game I saw was the girls sectional 2 championship game between Onalaska and the number 3 seed and the number 4 seed Western Wisconsin Stars. And it was a very good game, which was what we expected out of it. Onalaska ended up winning the game 3-1. Their first goal was one that was basically the coach's dream. Pass from the top of one face-off circle to the other face-off circle, and then back across to the back door, which got, tipped right into the net for 1-0 game. And their other two goals were unassisted goals, and they went up 2-0. Mackenzie Weeks cut it to 2-1, and then Onalaska was able to put it away with an empty net goal late in the third period to win that one 3-1. And then after that game ended, I had a little bit of downtime at the rink, worked on the article, and then we had Hudson and Superior. And that was an interesting game to see. Hudson, the first period, just dominated on the ice, and I believe it was 1-0 at the end of the first period. And they ended up being up 3-0 at the end of 2, but that was with 2 goals waved off by the referee. And why they were waved off, I'm not sure. Davis Drewiski did get a explanation from the referees, and he kind of smiled and went back to the top of his bench to watch the game from there. I didn't get a chance to ask him what was said. I wasn't going to ask him between periods. I figured that, I don't like to talk to the coaches that much between periods. They've got enough on their mind at that point in time, what's going on.
And you don't look like Aaron Andrews.
No. But, so they ended up winning that game. And I believe the final was 5-2 in that. I saw an interesting thing with one of the players getting his position in front of the net and dropped down to his butt trying to break the defenseman's stick that was there behind him. And it was actually a play I hadn't seen before. And I'm like, okay. But it overall was a very good game, 5-2. And it's the first time I got to see Hudson live this year. And I could see where they earned their number 1 ranking all season long. And with that, I think I'm going to pass it over to William for his game that he went to.
Yeah, Friday I stayed home, made the 9-minute drive from my house to Greenheck Fieldhouse here in Weston to check out the Hayward Hurricanes against the Central Wisconsin Storm, which is what we predicted that sectional final was going to end up being. Hayward really dominated the first 3 or so minutes of that game. The Storm's first shot was one of their best scoring chances of the game, actually. I don't remember exactly what happened, but Hayward kicked the puck out in front of their net to a Storm player who had no business having the puck in that position, but she buried it in Greta Wilberd's belly. You know how much players just like trying to score through that logo. And the Hurricanes dominated the first several minutes, and then the teams traded penalties, and Hayward never really recovered from their penalty kill in the first period, and it was all Storm for the second half of the period. The Storm finally managed to crack Wilbur about 5 minutes into the second period. Ava Rody held in a Hayward clearing attempt, passed it across the blue line to Maddie Dupuis, fired it on net, and it was tipped up and in by Logan Crawford for a 1-0 lead. Minute 53 into the third, They got their second goal. Again, Rhodey was involved. This time, she fired a shot from the point. Tristan Wickland tipped it. Wolber made a nice stop and tip on the tip, but it kicked right out to Gabby Hauser, who was all alone on the back door, and she just knocked it in to give the Storm a 2-0 lead. And from there, the Hurricanes dominated the rest of the third period. The Storm were pinned in their end the whole time, but Hayward just was not capitalizing on their opportunities. They had back-to-back 2-on-1s. The first one, the shot sailed wide of the net and then wrapped all the way around the zone, like you see far too often. And the second one, they didn't even get the shot off on goal. They made one too many passes, and the defenseman was able to break it up. And they followed those 2-on-1s with a breakaway, but Chloe Lemke was up to the task and stuffed that. They pulled the goalie, and they ended up scoring with 1:01 left in the game. Their first goal against the Storm in more than 6 periods worth of ice time. Michaela Ranke came into the zone. She drove down into the corner and then passed it back up the boards to Hadley Owen, who fired one of those shot passes where it's just a really, really hard pass, but it's close enough towards the net that people think it's a shot. Across ice to Reese Sheehan, who deflected it up and in to cut it to 2-1. But for the ensuing faceoff, Wolber came back out. They didn't want to go empty net for the center ice faceoff, and the Canes weren't able to get her back off the ice until 15 seconds left, and by then they didn't have enough time to tie the game. So the Storm take a 2-1 win in what was probably a harder fought battle than they thought they were going to have. Then we'll move on to Burglar, who was in Amory on Friday night.
I was. Grandson Brett went with me. We went to Amory on Friday night and then over to Somerset on Saturday. And we had ourselves a real fun weekend. Both games were outstanding. The first game, Rice Lake is the number 1 seed at Amory. So Rice Lake was the home team on the scoreboard and wearing the white jerseys, even though, it was Amory's home ice. But Rice Lake just dumped out to a fast start. Adam Tim scored the first goal, and then it was the Cole Fensky show. And Cole Fensky's good at hockey. He has a shot. What his coach Josh Engel said, he's probably got the best shot in the state. It's one of those very quick release and just hard, accurate shots. He scored the next 3 goals, and Rice Lake was up 4-0 after the first period. Amory didn't even get a shot on goal until about 5 minutes left in the period. When they got a power play and put 4 shots on then. But Amory regrouped. The place was packed. It was loud. It was rock. It was a rocking joint, I tell you. And Coach Tim Hemingsgaard, he thinks maybe his players were a little bit, a little overamped or something in that first period. But he said the leadership in their room was outstanding, and they managed to, calm themselves down physically and mentally and get back into their game. And they did. They scored early in the second period, and then kind of a key point in the game. Rice Lake had a 5. There were 2 penalties called within 8 seconds. So on Amory, so Rice Lake had a 5-on-3 power play, and Amory killed that off, and then scored shortly after that to make it 4-2, and really, get themselves back into the game. But Rice Lake kind of took control in the third period, and there was no more scoring after that. But it was just an exciting game. And one more comment I got from Coach Hemingsgaard was, first period 4-0, second period 4-2. He said after the second period, I couldn't decide if I was more happy about our play in the second or more frustrated with how we played in the first. Just opposite ends of the spectrum. So it ended up 4-2. Rice Lake returns to Madison. They're all pumped up for that. Amory finishes with a good season, at a real good group of seniors on their team. It was a good game. I enjoyed it thoroughly from my little rickety scaffolding. that was set up for myself and the guy doing the radio for Rice Lake.
And then for the games we weren't at on Friday, Madison Edgewood beat Wanakee 5-1. JJ Webush, Player of the Year finalist, Joe Pavelski Award finalist, had a natural hat trick in the first period. Cody Menzel, who is also each of those things, had a goal in the second to get them up 4-1. Jack Whitanen got them Wanakee a goal back in the third, but Cody Menzel added an empty netter at the end to make that one 5-1. We were not at that one. The other one we were not at on Friday was up in Northland Pines, Mosinee taking on Lakeland. Got an email after the second period from Northland Pines head coach David Cox, who said it was 1-1, and each team owned a period. Lakeland owned the first period, outshooting Mosinee 10-5. Mosinee owned the second period, outshooting Lakeland 13-5. Third period was kind of even, but it was Lakeland who got the goals. Teague Wagner, 52 seconds into the third period, picked up a goal, and then they added an empty netter at the end. So they took that one 3-1 over Mosinee to go back to the state tournament for back-to-back years for Lakeland. So then moving on to Saturday,
And
I didn't have any games on Saturday because I was at a mini mite jamboree.
Oh,
How'd that go?
It was great.
I woke up Saturday morning, planning on doing some running around to get some stuff for the house, and decided, well, I better double check the game time for up in Fond du Lac, thinking it was a 4:00 in the afternoon game. And lo and behold, I found out on some site called Wisconsin Prep Hockey that it was actually at 1:00 in the afternoon, not 4:00. So cut my running around and made a trip over to Fond du Lac to catch the Ledgers against the Panthers in their second meeting of the season. The first time they met was at Oregon, and the Ledgers won that game 3-2. Well, I expected to have a close game, but lo and behold, the Ledgers had something else in mind and jumped out to a 5-1 lead at the end of the first period. And that was Dane Deonovich's period. He scored 4 goals in that first period en route to that lead. Game continued on. The next period, 2 periods were a little bit closer, but the final score was 10-4. And between Deonovich and Talon Blank, they accounted for 13 points within that game and stuff. But the Ledgers making is this their third straight appearance going to the state tournament?
I believe so.
They might have had, I know they had a D1 appearance, but I don't think it was consecutive with their 2 D2 appearances. This is only the third year of 2 divisions, and then first 2 years they won the state tournament. They did have a D1 appearance recently, but I'm not sure it was consecutive with those other ones.
I think that D1 year, I think that's when kids like Brady Welsh were like freshmen.
And so while I was in the stands taking my photos and watching the game, I talked to a couple of the assistants from the Ledgers and said, well, I think the team was still worried about me getting a speeding ticket, knowing I had to make it to Sun Prairie. And so they were just trying to ensure that I was able to drive at a leisurely pace down to Sun Prairie for the Metro Lynx to take on the Baroka Blackhawks in the girls sectional 3 final. And that was a game that the Metro Lynx ended up winning 7-2, but the game was a little bit closer than what the final score actually resembles. I mean, the Lynx jumped out to, kind of like Rice Lake, jumped out to a 4-0 first period lead, and that actually just proved too much for the Blackhawks to be able to come back from. They evened up, both teams scoring 2 goals in the second period, and the Lynx went on and scored another one in the third. Had opportunities probably to score in the third period on the power play and everything, but they were content to kind of move the puck back out, move the puck around, and eat up the time more so than going after the goals in that game. And so I believe this is only the Metro Lynx' second time making it to the state tournament. And
Yeah, if you look at the brackets of years past, they have lost a lot of sectional finals to Onalaska and Cap City and Rock County.
so that actually filled the last bracket for the girls' side to as to who's going to the state tournament this year. And so I'll let Burglar talk about his Saturday game.
Yeah, before I do that, Fond du Lac Springs was 2018. And they were the sacrificial lamb for Hudson in the first round. Hudson beat them 7-1. I think Hudson went on to win that state tournament in 2018. It's amazing what you can find out at that Wisconsin prep hockey site. But yeah, after Friday night's game, we had a 4:00 game in Somerset. I don't believe I've ever been to that rink before. It's a nice rink. They had a scissors lift in there that had been in there for something else. They decided to put that alongside net right close by the coach's bench, and let us take pictures from that. So we're right up above the glass, and safe enough that we could duck, if any pucks were coming our way, but nothing did. But that also, again, the place was packed, big student sections from both sides, the bleachers full of people all around the ends. Again, just a great atmosphere. And Somerset came out and looked like Somerset had the better of the action in the first period, except till late in the first, but less than 3 minutes left. Baldwin Woodville came down on a 2-on-1. Blake Locken and Sam Sikora, and Locken timed his pass perfectly that Sikora was able to shoot the puck back against the grain on the goaltender, and put them up 1-0. And that was, according to Baldwin Woodville coach Lucas Trickley, said that goal was huge to settle their bench down. And it was a bit of a hard one to take, to get scored on that late in the first period for Somerset. But they came back out second period. Baldwin Woodville scored again in that period, but then Somerset was able to score about 10 minutes into the period and, cut the lead in half, and it looked like they were having the better of the action, but they were behind 2-1 at the time. And in the last 3 minutes, Baldwin Woodville scored 3 goals. Just like 45 seconds, just like boom, 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 3 goals. And they're, all of a sudden it's 5-1, and, going into the locker room trailing 5-1. But Dan Gilkerson, the Somerset coach, got his team settled down, told them if they can get within 2 goals, they can get within 2 goals, they can pull their goalie and still have a chance at the end. And they did. They scored twice. They pulled their goalie. They had all kinds of action in front of the Baldwin Woodville net. In fact, at one point, the goalie was off on one side, the puck was off on the other side, and a defenseman panicked and dropped down on the puck, covering it in the crease, which leads to a penalty shot. So it was playing out just like they wanted. There was 5-3. They had a penalty shot with 1.5 minutes left. But Dominic Height, the Baldwin Woodville goalie, he denied the penalty shot, and momentum swung back to Baldwin Woodville, and they were hang on. And this will be their first trip to state. They joined the WIAA in the late 90s, and Coach Trickle said, "We're excited to have the opportunity to represent our communities, our schools, and the Blackhawk Hockey Association. So happy for this group because they lived through some tremendous heartbreak, and they have worked so hard for each and every one of them in the room, and they really, really deserve it." So Baldwin Woodville making their first trip to state. I think they're ready for it. Should be a good one.
And then the last game on Saturday that none of us were at was University School in Brookfield, the 2 seed and the 4 seed in Division I, Section 4. I watched this game online in a format that should not have been available, but it was. I watched this one online, and to be perfectly honest, Brookfield dominated this game. They did everything except score more goals than University School. They outshot them more than 2-1. The score sheet on our website is missing the overtime shooting, but the last I checked, the shots were 53-25 in Brookfield's favor. But give University School credit, they came back. Brookfield had a 3-1 lead in the second period. University School scored the next 3 goals to take a 4-3 lead, and then Brookfield tied it up with about 6 minutes left in regulation. Then they went through the 5-on-5 overtime, and University School scored just 111 into the 4-on-4 overtime to win it 5-4 in overtime. But Brookfield, they didn't look like just watching this game on the stream, they did not look like a 2 seed or a 4 seed. I mean, they were really, really strong. I was really impressed with how well they played. They, like I said, did everything except score more goals. University School, they capitalized on the opportunities that were presented to them, and they did a good job of it. I think their 2 goals in the third period by Jack McGregor were both odd man rushes. They capitalized on those opportunities, and then I didn't get to see the one that happened in the second overtime. It was far past my kids' bedtime. I was finally putting them to bed.
The guy came down, kind of used the defenseman as a screen and went glove side in the far corner. It was a pretty nice snipe, and the celebration was on. But you're right, though, for Brookfield to hang around like that and play their best hockey. University School only has 4 seniors this year. This is a very, very young team. So this should be an interesting run. They're going to get a chance to make up at the state tournament with a very young squad.
And unfortunately, Brookfield doesn't have grad year listed for their roster. They have 2 guys listed as 2022, which would mean they're graduating this year, and just those 2. If those are the only 2 people they have graduating, they should be a nice team next year. So that set the last game of the day was the one that went to double overtime, and that set the tournament.
Field is set.
Yep. They seeded the tournament. My guesses were not right. They were close, but they were not right. Well, depending on which division. Division 1, Hudson is the 1 seed. They will face number 4 University School. The bottom half of that one is number 2 Notre Dame against number 3 Madison Edgewood. I had that the other way around. In Division 2, Rice Lake takes on Lakeland, and Springs takes on Baldwin Woodville. I think I had that one correct. And then in the girls bracket, Fox Cities takes on Alaska, and the Storm take on the Madison Metro Lynx as the 2 and 3. I had that bracket correct as well, despite Dell arguing with me.
Quick question. I know, like, at the end of our broadcast last week, we picked who we thought was going to win each sectional. Did you write that down?
I would have to go back and listen to it. I did not write it down.
Oh, okay.
But I can.
Then I was right on all of them.
I'll go back and pull them out, maybe, if I remember.
So should we start with Division 2?
Yeah, let's go in the division they're playing them in. So Division 2. Rice Lake and Lakeland. Lakeland did really well in the Great Northern Conference this year, but they didn't really travel that much outside the conference. Whereas like Rice Lake, obviously they didn't travel that much outside their conference either, but their conference is, in my, I don't think I'm going to offend anybody when I say the Big Rivers is quite a bit stronger than the Great Northern Conference. But if you look at their away non-conference games, Lakeland went to Spash and they went to Pacelli, and that's really, and they went to KMMO. They beat KMMO 2-1. They lost to Spash 3-1, and they scored 11 goals on Pacelli.
Are you going to look at the game that they actually against Rice Lake?
No,
Okay.
you can look
Burglar-
at that one.
Virgo, you saw both these teams in person, haven't you?
Yes, I've seen Lakeland a couple times and Rice Lake the one time. And I
Yes,
was
they did.
I just went to Lakeland's schedule to see if they'd played against anybody that has like the skill level of Adam, Tim, and Cole Fensky. And I said, well, they did. They played Rice Lake earlier that actually has Adam, Tim, and Cole Fensky. Rice Lake won that game 4-1. It was in Hayward. It must have been a tournament in Hayward tournament. Rice Lake beat them. The shots were fairly close at 31-20.
They were only one-sided in that second period.
Yeah, right. Well, Rice Lake scored 2 of their 4 goals in that second period. So yeah, I mean, Lakeland's a solid team. Balanced, no real superstars, but a solid team. And I think the game down in Madison is, I think it's gonna be very similar to the game that they had in Hayward.
So you guys are a little more familiar with the different size rinks that the teams up there play on. Are they basically the same size as the one at the Energy Center, or are they a little smaller rinks that they're on?
Everybody up here plays, other than DC Everest, I think everybody up here plays on a standard NHL sized rink.
Well,
I believe
DC Everest and Northland Pines.
Northland Pines is a little smaller than a standard NHL sized rink. And I believe at the Alliant Energy Center, they play on Olympic sized ice.
Yeah, I think it's just slightly smaller. Olympic size is like 100 feet wide. This is like 95 or 96. It's they couldn't quite get the full 100 in there, but it's close.
Who's our other Section 2 semifinal game?
That would be Fond du Lac Springs against Baldwin Woodville.
Well, Baldwin Woodville broke their curse that they've had the last couple seasons, made it past that semifinal game, which they were given a little bit of a scare in that one, though.
They were, and like they like I said last week, they had been the number 1 seed all 3 years of 2 divisions, and this was the first time they even made it to the sectional final. But yeah, they got over that hump. 23-1 on the year, but I don't know. Looking at their schedule, I don't know that they've played anybody who has a line that stacks up to that first line of Springs.
They have not. They have. I'm looking at their schedule. They've. Yeah.
I mean, they played Superior, who played in the D1 Section 1 final, but Superior's they're not an offensive juggernaut. So yeah, they haven't. They cannot afford to come out slow. They can't afford to be nervous at all, because like every kid on Springs has already been to the state tournament twice. So Baldwin Woodville cannot afford to come out slow or tentative at all. They have to be on their A game the second the puck drops.
Right. It's gonna take them a couple of shifts to figure out, how to keep up with that first line of Springs. And their goaltender, I think that was Dominic Height. He's gonna have to be ready. He's gonna be busy. The first 5 minutes, first half of the first period, he's going to be very busy. If he can hold tight, then while the rest of the group gets up to speed with that line, then they should be okay, because they've got a solid defensive team. They can score some goals. It's just they've I don't think they're. It's hard to simulate blank and
Yanovich and Austin.
Yeah, it's hard to simulate that in practice.
Like I was watching the stream of the game Dell was at Fond du Lac Springs in Oregon, and I have never, and it happened both sides, but I have never seen that many breakaways in the sectional final. It was breakaway after breakaway, and like Springs had the majority of them, but Oregon had some too. It was just breakaway after breakaway after breakaway. I'm like, this poor goalie. Like
they're playing 3-on-3.
I mean, I'm telling you, if the Oregon goalie was at like 75% on breakaways, which is like Andrei Vasilevsky at his best, they still would have given up like 5 or 6 goals in that game. Like it was just like breakaway after breakaway, and or at best like 2-on-1 or 3-on-1. It was crazy. But on the other end, Springs also gave Oregon several of them too. So when they're playing all out offense like that, you know, their defensemen kind of get up into it and you can get them turned around the other way. So I think Burglar's right. Baldwin Woodville just going to have to weather that first half of the first period. And if they can stay close through that, they can make a game of it. But there's no doubt they have not faced somebody this year like Springs.
Move on to the girls.
Oh,
Girls semifinals. Del.
your first one in that is going to be Fox Cities against Onalaska. They did meet in the opening game of the season on November 19th. Fox Cities won that game 7-3. After that, the freshman for Onalaska ended up along the line through the season becoming their number one goalie. And in that game, shots were fairly even. It was 32-31. At one point going into the third period, Onalaska had cut the score down to 4-3. And then they gave up 3 goals after that to end up losing that game 7-3. But you know, it's their goaltending got stronger throughout the year, but you still got a lot of offensive firepower on that Fox Cities team.
Well, you have really 2 players of firepower on the Fox Cities team. Michaela Zilish had 39 goals in the regular season. Grace Rentmeester had 33. Malia Streck had 12. Parker Beyer had 6. After Zilish and Rentmeester, like they don't have offense. You know, other than that sectional final against Bay Area, their other games, as Burglar pointed out, their last game against Bay Area was a 1-1 tie, or the one he saw against Bay Area was a 1-1 tie that ended in a shootout. And I don't know what happened in the sectional final if they just decided, all right, we're not playing defense, everybody go all in. It was 7-6.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it that when I saw that score come across as 7-6. For Onalaska, I mean, we've heard of Kia Bronston over the past couple of years, but McKenna LaFleur, I really heard her name a lot during the Hudson game in the sectional semifinals. And then she ended up scoring in the sectional final game. And she ended up with 2 points out of that, but really saw her a lot on the ice. She's number 11. And but I mean, they've got LaFleur, they've got Kia Bronston, and Tessa Deal. I saw quite a bit out there. They spread it out, and I didn't look to see what their season totals were on goals. But, you know, you got Kia Bronston is one of our finalists for the Janelle Sergi Award. So, I mean, between the 2 teams, you've got skaters out there that can apply the pressure. And I think this is going to be a very good game.
Yeah, Bronston has 31 goals. Jaden Hammis has 19. McKenna LaFleur has 24. Anna Szymanski has 10.
And Jaden's one of their defensemen. And so, but she does a very good job at moving the puck up from that defensive zone and being able to skate and control that puck.
I mean, this is going to be a game of, I mean, just looking at the scoring, this is going to be a kind of a first line against first line type game, which we still see pretty often in the girls' game. Fox Cities, they don't have a lot of blemishes on their schedule, but neither does Onalaska. Onalaska hasn't lost a game since December 14th.
And I think Burglar told us going into the playoffs, they were like on a 14-game winning streak at that point or something along that line somewhere.
And they came out of the section of death. So,
and with that, I guess we can move over to the next sectional semifinal. Central Wisconsin Storm against the Metro Lynx. And this is actually another rematch. They met in the Culver's Cup semifinal, and that one, the Storm won 2-1 after the Lynx scored in the first period. The Storm scored in both the second and third to end up winning that game 2-1. That was another one that is fairly even on shots, 38 for the Lynx. Storm had 31. But, this is Logan Crawford for the Storm scored both their goals in that game. And so, this is going to be one that's going to be interesting to see. And if December's any inclination, it looks like it's going to be a nice tight one going down to the end.
I've said this before, the Storm play really aggressively on the puck, but they're not an offensive juggernaut. But twice this season, they've allowed 3 goals in a game. It's really, really hard to beat a team you can't score against. Their 3-2 loss to the Warbirds in overtime, they allowed 3 goals. And then their 4-3 loss to the Fox City Stars. Those were the only 2 times this season that the Storm allowed 3 goals in a game. Now, we've heard that the Lynx are probably the deepest team in the state. They don't have your Zelish and your Rentmeester and your Bronston, but they have very good players, and they have a lot of them, and they're very deep. So it's just going to be up to them to counter the Storm's pressure and put more pressure on the net, because even if the Storm are not an offensive juggernaut when they're playing against the other top end teams, you don't have to be if nobody can score on you. I mean, if you can hold every other team you play to 2 goals or less, your odds are pretty damn good. Their win against the Metro Lynx was only 2-1. Their win against Bay Area on December 14th was 3-2. So, they played within 1 goal of the Fox City Stars, who are the number 2 team in the state all year. So like they're used to those games. They're not going to get nervous playing in a close game. And like you said, this is the Lynx' second trip to the state tournament for all the years we've been talking about that.
Not the only problem. The downside of that, is that you leave yourself no margin for error.
That is true.
Yeah, they're only giving up 2 goals a game, but they're only scoring 3. So all it takes is a couple of power plays or a couple of bad bounces, and things happen. Yeah.
And that game in December, the Lynx scored 38 seconds into that first period. And so, I mean, they scored quickly there. But, that's one of those ones where goalies are still trying to get settled in that opening part of the period. And the Storm settled in. The final goal of that game was actually scored only a minute 12 into the third period. So, I mean, there's still a lot of time that puck was being moved around, and both goalies were up to the task. It just happened to be a 2-1 game. And, how are people going to react once they get down there at the Energy Center?
Well,
that's
and since that is the 4th game on Thursday, I believe by law it is required to go to overtime. I believe the 4th game on Thursday, it has to go to overtime. It's a rule.
Yeah, and then you getting scored on 38 seconds in. I remember back when I was coaching. I mean, goalies are weird. I never felt comfortable in a game until my goalie had made that first save, because you please be an easy shot from like the blue line or the top of the circle, something, because goalies are weird. They got to get settled in. You got to ease them into the game. you know.
And like, I know this doesn't happen, and I know he's not a Frenchman, but whenever I hear somebody talking about Jacques Duvert, the Storm coach, when they get scored on 38 seconds into the game, I just imagine him swearing in French on the bench because his name is Jacques Duvert. He has to be swearing in French on the bench. That just like that has to be the thing.
Even if it's not out loud, right?
Right.
So MJ, where are we going from here?
Let's move on to the boys Division 1.
On Friday,
10 a.m. in the morning. University School of Milwaukee taking on the Hudson Raiders.
They
Defending
played
state champs.
just a couple weeks ago.
February 5th.
Yeah, February 5th. So it's not like an early season game that's easy to throw away. It was a late season game. I think that's the week before sectional seedings.
That's the day before.
Yeah, and Hudson won that game 6-1. University School took 11 shots. Very akin to the game we saw Hudson and Wausau West play. Not quite as well offensively. University School didn't do much more than Wausau West. 11 shots, the same Wausau West got. They held Hudson a little better, I think, at 6. But I mean, there's going to have to be a big change from University School and Hudson to turn that one around, because 6-1 holding a team to 11 shots just a couple weeks ago, that's got to be in University School's head.
Yeah, I would think so.
What can we do different?
I mean, at that point, you know, it's like when I asked David Cox, you know, at the Great Northern Conference tournament, you know, what was different between, you know, your game Medford in the regular season when you lost and the Great Northern Conference tournament game that you won? And he's just said, when you're 4-17, there's just too many things to list. And I think that's kind of where USM is at against Hudson right now. There's too many things they have to do differently to turn that game around from what it was last time.
Well,
and
also,
given the tradition and the players USM has, I mean, they have the capability of doing it, but you know, whether they execute on it is a whole nother story.
4 seniors for USM, a very young squad. They've got some freshmen playing. Hudson, I mean, they're looking to go back to back, but I think at the same time they can't overlook University School.
You can't overlook anybody at this point. If you overlook somebody, you're doomed.
Right. But you got to admit, Hudson's got to be still the huge favorite in this game.
Well, they've played each of the other 3 teams and beaten each of the other 3 teams handily this season. They beat Edgewood 7-2. They beat Notre Dame 5-0. They beat University School 6-1. You know, are any of those schools going to bring something different to the state tournament?
I will say the Notre Dame game was very early in the season.
Yeah.
You notice that the winning margin in all 3 of those games is 5 goals. Well,
isn't that how that explained it? That turns it into a lopsided victory in the old U.S. high school hockey online power rankings.
Is that how that works? Our second game on that one is what? Notre Dame and Edgewood.
Yeah, that should be a good one.
And so they did meet on December 30th.
That would have been at the showdown in Titletown,
and
wherever they're calling it now.
Basically, 5 minutes into the third period, Edgewood actually was up 3-2, and then the final 3 goals go to Notre Dame in that one. The third goal that Edgewood scored in that game was a shorthanded one by Cody Menzel. And I kind of like looking at some of the names on there because I see Matt Richter and I'm like, oh, I've heard that name Richter before somewhere, but you know, it's just kind of interesting to me to see some of the names that we see.
I wonder if that's Barry Richter's kid.
But yeah, I mean, a 5-3 game, December 30th. And, you know, so we know that it should be a fairly close game and a nice tight contest throughout.
it was a 5-3 game, but Notre Dame outshot them 29-14, which is a little surprising when you consider the resume that Cody Menzel and JJ Webush have put up this year. But it doesn't look like Webush played in that game. He's not showing on the roster for Edgewood in that game. So that's a huge difference maker if a player of the year finalist was not there that day.
That may be a difference maker. But still, I agree.
He's really good.
Yeah, this game is going to be pretty. This ought to be pretty good. And it's they only have the 2 games on Friday, 10 a.m. and approximately 12:15, and then that's it for the day. We don't see no more games till Saturday morning.
Well, no, but we have our awards ceremony.
Well, yeah,
Friday afternoon.
Can I say something though?
Yeah, go ahead.
I miss having the Friday night games at State.
Yeah, we have more divisions now and fewer games, and it's not quite as fun.
Yeah,
in that respect.
Yeah, and I don't know how they would change it either. Yeah, and okay, Burglar, you mentioned we're going to be giving our awards away
on Thursday. No, Friday, 4:00, over in the exhibition hall. They're right next to the Coliseum. It'll be upstairs, open to the public. Anybody can come.
Yep, we'll be doing that.
We're going to be giving away all our awards, and
MJ will be our host.
Thank God, because I had to do it last time. The last 2 times. I do not like public speaking.
Oh, I don't mind it. It's not that bad. But yeah, we'll be giving those away. And then Saturday, we'll be looking at Championship Saturday for 3 teams. I mean, for three games. So, guys, anything else you want to add tonight?
Well, let's make some quick picks. We'll go in the same order we went in. Division 2.
Okay, game 1 is Rice
No,
Lake
not every game. Just pick your champion.
Ledgers.
It's hard to bet against the Ledgers.
And no, I don't hate Rice Lake.
Trasher would find something to not like about him.
I'm gonna go. I mean, yeah. Well, first, but I as much as I like Baldwin, Woodville, and Lakeland, I mean, Fond du Lac Springs and Rice Lake have been either 1 or 2, depending on whether you're looking at the coaches poll or the computer rankings in Division 2 all year. And I think I'm going to give a slight edge to Rice Lake because they've got 2 scoring lines. Springs has 1. If I don't know who. Rice Lake will probably be the home team anyway, since they're the 1 seed. But if Springs tries to match up against one of their top lines, then the other one is going to have, their way. Because like I say, Springs is all their eggs are in one basket. Rice Lake has their spread between 2 baskets, and whichever one Springs puts their effort into stopping, that's going to open up the door for the other one. So I'm going to go Rice Lake to break that streak that Springs has going.
That Springs is going for the 3-peat.
Yeah. 3-peats are reserved for Superior.
I'm gonna go with Rice Lake. Like they've been, like the brother said, they've been 1 and 2 all year. I don't think and I said it at the beginning of the year, I don't think this Springs team is the invincible juggernaut that they were the last couple of years. I know that Dane Dianovich is first team All-State this year. I believe he's the only non-goalie Division II first team All-State player on the boys' side. There's 3 goalies up there, but for forwards and defensemen, I think he's the only non-goalie. But they graduated 8 of their 9 leading scorers last year. Dane Dianovich was the one they didn't. And then Josh Austin is now, I think he was 10th last year. Now he's, on their first line, and Talon Blank is there. So they're not the invincible juggernaut that they were before. So I think that gives that gives somebody like Rice Lake a chance, because I said this 2 years ago when they played Rice Lake in the first round. Springs isn't going to surprise Rice Lake. They've played Hudson twice. They've played Memorial twice. They've played North twice. They've played Chippewa Falls twice. Maybe Chippewa Falls doesn't count there as far as offensive juggernauts go, but they're not going to surprise them. They're not going to bring something Rice Lake hasn't seen before. It's just whether or not Rice Lake, has enough to counter that first line. I'm going to go with Rice Lake, if only because it'd be cool to see someone different win.
Overtime potential?
I think these teams have too much offense. Generally speaking, when you see an overtime game, it's not like a 5-4 game. I mean, they can happen, but I think this is going to be a game with a lot of goals. 5-4, 6-5, something like that. I'm not looking for a 3-2 game here.
MJ, you made your pick?
Yep.
Okay.
You guys picked the Ledgers. We picked Rice Lake. It broke down geographically.
Jeez. Let's go to the girls' side.
I don't think it broke down geographically intentionally. I think that's just how it worked out.
MJ, go ahead and start us.
Get Rice Lake. They're the kings of the North.
Kings of the North. Looking at the girls on Alaska and Fox Cities, Metro Lynx and Central Wisconsin Storm. Oh, decisions. You know what? I'm going to take on Alaska. I'm going to take on Alaska because Teresa Knutsen's going to send some mojo from wherever she's from at this point.
And I don't know if she listens to the podcast, but I do know that Teresa Knutsen follows us on Twitter because we interact really regularly.
Yeah, she wants to come on the podcast too. We'll have her on next season.
We might have her on at the end of this season.
Oh, well, whatever, that's fine.
Tell you what, if you're right, MJ, if you're right, and Alaska wins the state tournament, you can invite Teresa Knutsen on our final end of season podcast
next Monday.
What if I invite her anyways?
Well, that's fine too. I mean, because she is playing the professional season right now.
Yeah. Okay. Like I said, I took on Alaska.
Well, I'm gonna, I mean, all season long, it's been Fox Cities and Bay Area at the top, Central Wisconsin next, and then the next 3, 4, 5, they've all just flip-flopped all season long. And I think that, Fox Cities and Bay Area at the top for a reason, Central Wisconsin next for a reason. I think the championship game is going to be Fox Cities against Central Wisconsin. And I think Fox Cities just has too much firepower for Central Wisconsin. And my pick would be the Fox City Stars.
Junior?
I was going to let Del go. Did Del go?
Well, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to this, and I've gotten to see all 4 teams play. And I've been very impressed with all 4 teams. And with that being said, I'm going for the team that doesn't have a 20-point score, 20-goal scorer. I'm taking the Lynx.
This grouping is weird because these teams have all beaten each other in round robin fashion. The Lynx beat Fox Cities 1-0. Fox Cities beat the Storm. The Storm beat the Lynx. Onalaska beat the Lynx, but Onalaska lost to Fox Cities. They've all beaten each other in round robin fashion. So you can't play king of the hill like that. And I agree with Dell in that. I point the Lynx don't have a 20 goal scorer, but they are the most balanced team in the bunch. Zilish and Rentmeester have to score if Fox Cities is going to win. Federici has to score if the Storm are going to win. Bronston has to score if Onalaska is going to win. The Lynx don't lean on anybody like that. So, I think that, coming into the tournament, by this time, if you know that the other team needs to rely on one or two or even three people to one or two people to get their goals, you should be able to stop them. As a coach, you should be able to get your team to realize those people are your threats, and whether you shadow them or something, you should be able to stop them. And so for that reason, I'm going to take the Lynx because they are the most balanced team. They're not going to rely on one or two people to get their goals. And I'm going to trust that they managed to shut down those goal stories like they did when they beat Fox Cities 1-0 in overtime on January 29th.
One thing I will say that watching the game the other night, Tia Bice came in. She took a pass in the neutral zone. She came in and she fired that shot from the top of the circle, and I wasn't expecting the shot at that point in time. And I think that's also what happened with the goaltender. She wasn't expecting that shot, and it went top shelf over the left shoulder of the goalie in the far corner. And it was just such a quick shot, and it wasn't like she couldn't have skated in closer. I think she just happened to see her best opportunity there, and if it was blocked, she had a chance to get in there for a rebound. But it was just one of those quick shots that you weren't expecting that impress you every now and then when you see it from a player.
Now, is she related to TPB?
That's what I
Yes.
Okay. What's the relation? Sister, cousin?
I believe sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
there's
See
some
what
genes there.
you were talking about there, Del. That's what I saw with Cole Fensky in the Rice Lake game. Just he'll be skating. You think he's just skating with the puck, and all of a sudden, boom! There's a shot, and it's just a rifle, and you didn't even see it coming.
So, Burglar, you going to start us out in the boys division 1?
Yeah, I see no reason to say anything different than what we've said all season long. The Raiders.
Raiders.
I don't see. I mean, yeah, they've beaten all these teams. They've beaten everybody. I don't see any upsets in the making here.
I'm
Unless-
looking.
Unless they just forget to show up.
I don't think that. I don't think.
And I don't think
that's
they'll
going
do
to
that
happen
either.
Yeah, and I got to talk to Coach Drewiski a little bit before their game. They were there and they watched the Onalaska game, caught a lot of that, and watched their players sit there. They didn't have a dog in the fight, but sitting there cheering good plays from both teams down there in the corner, watching the girls' game. But talking to Coach Drewiski, there's no way that they would be overlooking any team that they're playing in this tournament. I do think that the finals game, I think it's going to be Edgewood against Hudson. And I look for it to be a closer game than it was the last time they played, but I still see Hudson coming out on top.
As I hope I'm wrong, but I think in the Division 1, I think the only interesting game is going to be Notre Dame and Edgewood.
Yeah, I mean, given that they've already beaten each of those teams by a 5-goal margin, I mean, you would have to give me really, really long odds to put money on anybody other than Hudson, like just absurd odds.
Well, you know what happens down at state. Sometimes you get those funny games. You get a penalty you don't think you deserve, and you get the 5-minute major or something, and you just
5-minute majors ruin all your plans.
They
Yes,
do.
they do.
They have
They
a way
do.
of just screwing things up.
They do.
But you get that big bounce off of the boards behind that net that seems to come right back straight out in front of that
Yep.
net. They're
Pay attention when the puck rings around the Zamboni door.
Yep. It comes flying out of there. Because those goalies will, next thing you know, they're looking at a puck right by their skates.
So what was our breakdown here? Did you pick
Okay.
MJ? Did you pick Hudson?
I picked the Raiders.
Okay, so as Division 1, everybody picked Hudson. Division 2, we got 2 Rice Lakes and 2 Springs. Division 3, we have
So that's girls.
The girls.
girls.
There's no 3.
Sorry. I was in a roll. You picked Fox Cities Burglar?
Huh?
You picked Fox Cities?
Yes.
You
Because
got
I
a
pay
Fox Cities, and Onalaska, and 2 Lynx. So that's our picks. You write in your hate mail to Trasher.
So again, we're going north-south on the girls,
it's just
kind of,
that
sort of,
Yeah.
northish.
it's just that the people who did it are different, because Dell and I ended up with the Lynx, or MJ and I ended up with the Lynx.
Oh, okay, never mind then.
MJ took on Alaska.
I took on Alaska. I just did. I had to be different on this one.
Well, you went first.
Yeah, I know. I went first. And
But like I think the girls one will probably be the most interesting, because like
Well,
I said,
think-
all these teams have beaten each other around robin fashion.
see,
Like
I think that I thought that you
stack
guys
them.
would. I thought that you guys would go Storm. See,
I did. No, I
You
didn't.
and Stars.
No, you
Oh,
didn't.
Stars.
You and Stars.
Yeah.
I actually think that out of our 3 final games,
You know, because secretly I still have that man crush on McGurk, you know.
but I think out of all of our 3 finals, I think that the girls is the one that's got the biggest opportunity to go to overtime.
Well,
I think you're right. I think that's the most wide open.
Yeah.
Well, the good news is, guys, we're going to find out in a couple days.
Yeah. I got a final thought here.
Yeah, let's go.
And it's on officiating. Because you know, here at Wisconsin Prep Hockey, we love hockey officials. They have a hard job. They get no respect from the idiots in the stands. And they go out there every game and they give it their all. And on Saturday, we are going to see 3 officials that I've actually coached as peewees in championship games on Saturday. I'm not sure which. Well, I know Wisconsin Prep Hockey's favorite hockey official, Nikki Clays, will be working in the girls' game, and also Scott Suick, who actually was a teammate of Nikki's when they were peewees. He's working one of the boys' championship games on Saturday, and our latest second favorite hockey official, Dank Assis, will be working one of the championship games also.
Does it really count as you coaching, Dan, though?
We practiced together.
We did. We practiced. The A and C team practiced together. We were the A team coach, and he was the C team goalie.
Yeah. Well, Bob saw more than we did, because Bob would over, shot pucks at his head. But that's because.
Yeah, we did do it properly. We did in Anago at the time, where both squirt teams or peewee teams were on the ice at the same time, because that makes sense.
This may sound like a little bit of a I don't know, it's a little bit of a different comment, but as I look here on the front page, you guys really got some good pictures. I mean, I'm looking at the one for Baldwin Woodville. I mean, the clarity, it's sharp. You can see the puck flying in the net. I mean, these are some good pictures.
Well, we've been doing this long enough. Eventually, you got to get a couple.
Yeah.
What's Burglar always say? If you take
the one he's talking about, that was actually Brett got that one. Because I told Brett, I told him, I said, I gave him my key for taking good pictures. take lots of them. Some of them are going to turn out to be good. And he captured that one perfectly. Yeah.
Now I'm looking at the one here of Amory and Rice Lake. I mean, I don't see where the puck is, but I mean, just the color and the clarity of that picture is phenomenal.
Oh, that was yeah. Cole Fensky just picked the pocket of a guy in the around the face, right off the faceoff dot, and he skated into the slot, and it was still kind of wide open. He just kind of picked his corner. And yeah, I don't know which corner he picked. You can't see the puck, but he buried it.
He's like Joe Lorado. You don't leave him alone in the slot.
He makes his own time and space.
Does he? Okay. Anything else, guys? Donations. How we doing?
I think we're good. I thank everybody who contributed. I think we got all our bases covered. If you want to buy us a pop or something, we'll still accept donations up through the tournament and stuff. But I think we got everything covered. Thank everybody who donated. We certainly appreciate it. I think we've got the site back on track so that we'll be covered again going forward. But thank you for covering our shortfall. We got our award stuff covered and all our dues and fees and stuff. So again, thank you all very much.
And that means I can stop posting clickbait.
Clickbait.
Well, I don't know if you saw, like today yesterday, I posted when they had the seating out. I made an actual article that said what the seating was and what the bracket was. We've never done that before. We've always just posted that on social media. But because we had such a gap in our ad revenue this year, I'm like, I'm going to make it an article and then it'll get clicks. And it did really well.
So they'll click on it and a couple of ads will pop up and yeah.
I can stop doing that now. I don't like doing that. It makes me feel icky.
Hey, at least we turned down the sports betting.
Yeah, I was going to say that not as icky as that would have made you feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have felt right about that one.
Yeah, I mean, we're not the kind of people that turn down a lot of sponsorships, but when someone's like, hey, we're a sports betting site, like we cover high school hockey, slow your roll.
Yeah. Well, maybe we could do our own, a little fantasy, DraftKings, pick your team. Who's going to score this,
No. I'm pretty sure if we do that, the WIA will stop giving us press passes.
They will stop probably a lot of things about us.
Yeah.
Next week, we should get some beer sponsors on the site too.
Yeah.
Just please, guys, just stay away from the strip clubs. We don't need those sponsors.
I never noticed that. You have a junior team at your home rink, MJ.
Yeah.
Burglar pointed it out because we play hockey Sunday nights at Marathon Park in Wausau.
Yeah.
We have the NA3HL, I think it is, the Wausau Cyclones.
Yeah.
They have beer sponsors like most junior hockey teams do.
When
they're not in session, they actually fold up their banners because you can't have beer ads. I don't know if it's a county thing or if it's because of the WIA games that happen there, but do they do that in Janesville too?
No, ours are up there.
Okay.
I think it's a stupid rule. I mean, what are you going to do? Run out on the ice and give the kid a beer between face-offs? Come on.
Okay.
They worry more about the game than the damn beer at this point.
I was just wondering because we speculated that's why they cover them up, but I don't know.
No, we don't.
They cover up all the Cyclone signage when they're not in action.
And that's the thing for junior teams. That's big revenue. Beer sales. That's very big revenue. I know that for a fact.
And most of your junior players aren't old enough to drink either.
Right.
All right, back on track.
All right.
Okay. Anything else, guys?
Oh, just we did get our the donations were enough that we're able to get our suite so we have our headquarters set up there during the state tournament. We'll be at the main concourse level of suite 506. Feel free to stop by and say hello at any time. Although if the door is closed, it's because we're probably doing an interview and we're taping an interview. or recording an interview. So if the door is closed, don't come in, but usually it'll be open. So just, come in, say hi, whatever. We'll be there the whole time.
Okay, sounds good. Getting pretty excited about this. I mean, last year, with COVID, we didn't have anything at the Coliseum. We didn't have that kind of state tournament. It was up in Wisconsin Rapids last year for, was it for D1 in Wisconsin Rapids?
It was
for
all
both?
three. It was just
All
the
three
finals for all three.
Yeah. The championship games were all in Wisconsin Rapids. The semifinals were at the higher seeds home rink.
Right.
I am so glad that the state tournament is in person again, because we had an agreement with the WIAA last year that we would work with the local rinks to get stats for all the games, and oh my god, that was a huge pain in my ass for all the semifinals. That was it's so much easier just like when I'm in the arena sitting in a chair with my laptop for me to just score the game than make sure that people at 6 different sites are doing it properly. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, that's always fun, especially when we got people doing plus minus, and
I don't know if we'll have plus minus this year.
It's hard.
Well, yeah, our old plus minus crew. It started out with Nikki. Well, she's graduated from plus minus to actually, officiating games. And Bob's not coming anymore. So Brett has graduated from plus minus to, Cub photographer. So yeah, I don't know who we got left. I think the only ones who actually looked at the plus minus was us when we were looking at our defenseman for the all tournament team.
Yeah.
Which defenseman had the best minus? I don't know if anybody else even looked at it.
Okay. All right. Anything else you want to hit on?
Nope.
Okay. Del?
Nope, I'm good.
Burglar?
I'm not good, but I'm okay.
Junior, time to take it home?
Yes, sir.
All right. For the fellas, I'm Mike Hammett. We'll see you on Thursday for This Week in Wisconsin Prep Hockey.